All right, gang, in this module, we're going to work through what does it mean to be organized for production. So the Inspired Delivery System is really built on a couple of tenets. One is that we're going to be very, very well prepared to do the job, which we've already talked about. The things that we do at the point of sale and the things that we do in preparation for making sure that the job is done correctly. And then the third big piece of this puzzle is how do we stay organized? So what does it mean to be organized around a job? Once we get the organization down pat, then we'll talk about communication, delivery, material delivery, installation, all the way through closing the job. But I will tell you that if you don't get the first three things right, the rest of it it's a crapshoot. So that's why we focus. We're going to spend a good bit of time focusing on what do we do at the point of sale? What do we do to prepare for the job? And what do we do to make sure that we're organized for the job? Because if we get those three things right, the rest of the work is going to be fairly straightforward. But my gosh, if we get those three things wrong, it creates absolute chaos in the world of production, and you really don't want that. So let's think about what does it mean to be organized in production? What does it mean to be organized around executing jobs? And frankly, this is nothing more than just basic project management. So I know some of you come from project management backgrounds where you've managed big projects, you've had a lot of projects. Maybe you weren't officially called a project manager. Look, even in your own household, maybe you had to make sure that the kids got ready for school and that people made it to soccer practice on time and whatever it was. Every one of us in our past has had to organize and make sure that things happen when they were supposed to happen. And that's all we're talking about here. Okay. So what does it mean, first of all, to have a scheduling board? So how do we organize our office and warehouse for efficient production? What does it mean to have a scheduling board? What does it mean to manage those folders through production? How do we receive materials? What does it look like to keep our warehouse organized? And then we're going to have some fun around roles and responsibilities in the business. All right, so first of all, we talked in the last module about the design associate working through and creating the job jacket and creating the folder, right? Okay, so that's fine. I have a folder to manage a job, but how am I going to manage the schedule? Well, we're going to manage the schedule through something called a scheduling board. And there's a couple of different ways to do this. You can go the manual route. The manual route simply means that you put up a whiteboard. Now, this is a whiteboard. If you haven't made it to the office yet, you will. You get a chance to see this board. If you've already made it to the office, you've probably already seen this. This is a board that I created by simply taking, I went out to Amazon and got a card detailer pinstriping tape. It's pretty cheap. And I just laid the board out. These straight lines are nothing more than detailing tape and pinstriping tape. But you don't have to do that. I mean, you could literally lay this out and mark on with a Sharpie and put your lines out there. The key to this thing is that you've got your installers going down the left-hand side. You've got the days of the week going down the right-hand side. You've got the dates here, and you'll see that right now this is set up so that this first quadrant would be week 1, then you've got week 2, week 3, and week 4. But when week 1 is finished, when we get to December 18th, I'm not going to rewrite the whole board. I'm simply going to erase these first 7 squares, and I'm going to simply put in this first box, January the 8th, January the 9th, January the 10th. And so now this box is going to be week 1, this box is going to be week 2, this is going to be week 3, and this is going to be week 4. And in that way, I'm not having to rewrite the whole board every time. I'm just having to copy over, and I'm not copying anything over. I'm simply adding a week as we go. So what does this look like? Well, the Adams job, Samuel, you know what? Until this very moment, I never caught that was Samuel Adams. Perfect. So Samuel is going to do the Adams job on December the 12th. Hugo is going to do the Brady job on December the 14th, and they better do a good job with it. You'll notice that Rachel has the Pace job, and that's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4-day job. So you can just see that that's outlined out. Now, Samuel is taking off the 12/25 as well as the rest of the guys. Here we've got the installers that are taking off the weekend before that, and maybe even the Friday before that. Okay, that's fine. Up here in the top right-hand side, you've got, these are jobs that need to be scheduled. So this is your to be scheduled box. This is the box of people that need to be paid. This is a box that are just waiting for the happy walk. So the job is done and we're waiting for the happy walk. And then I've got a little box down here for go backs. So if there's a little piece of trim or something we've got to go back and fix, those are down here and those need to be scheduled for go backs. So the nice thing about a whiteboard like this is it's easy to understand. I mean, literally in about a minute, you can train somebody on how to use it, what it means. By the way, when I set this up, these are just little magnetic. This is one of those whiteboards that's magnetic. So these are just little magnetic tabs, and you can write right on them, and you can plop them in place, and you can move them around or whatever you need to do. It's easy. This is visible to everybody. You can put this up in the office, and everybody that walks through can see it. As you get really busy and the board gets really full, when new installers walk in and they see that you've got a lot of work, it's a good thing. This is continuously updating. Now, for all the pros, there's cons. One of the downsides of using a whiteboard like this is, once I get to the end of this week, I've got to erase this week, and I've got to erase all the data that might happen to be here. So I'm going to lose the fact that Hugo did the Brady job on 1214. It's erased, it's gone. It's also very easy for something to get maybe bumped off the board, or for somebody to accidentally erase something, or you have to be in physical contact with it to interact with it. I suppose you could install a security camera, looking at it, so that if you were out in the field, you could look at the board, but you wouldn't be able to interact with the board if you were out in the field. So what a lot of people do is they instead work with an Excel version, and they just keep the Excel version out on a shared drive somewhere. So whether that's a OneDrive, a SharePoint, a Google Drive, whatever your favorite shared service is. And it's the same thing. You've got the crew down the left-hand side. You've got the dates across the top. You've got the days of the week. And you can see when people are off. I can see that Chris has the Turner job for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I see that Samuel has the McGuire job. Now you'll notice there's some color codes here. So here I've got Samuel for Thursday, for next Thursday for the McGuire job, but that schedule needs to be confirmed. So that's got a little green hash mark here, and we just need to pay attention to what's going on here. And now, if I happen to walk by the board, I may not know what the issue is. So I might have to ask the production coordinator what's going on with the McGuire job. But this is just a way for everybody to know that that needs to be confirmed. The Thompson job, so Sabino's got the Thompson job, and it's marked in red because the schedule's in jeopardy. Okay, well, this is great. I mean, it's not great that it's in jeopardy, but it's great that everybody can see it right away. So again, if I'm walking by the board, if I happen to see this, I don't necessarily know what's caused it to be in jeopardy, but I could look at the job jacket, I could look at the PC's notes, or I could ask the PC what's going on with this. This is a way for the PC to let everybody know that this is what's going on with the work. Whoever's responsible for production, whether it's a PC or your office manager or whatever title you give them, they are responsible for keeping this board up to date, and they're really the only one that needs to keep it up to date. So they're really the owners of this. You've got up here at the top jobs that need to be scheduled. So maybe the Gilmore job is one that just got landed. It hasn't been scheduled yet, but the handoff from the DA to the PC has been made. It's just that it hasn't been scheduled yet. Midkift has been finished, but we're waiting to get paid for whatever reason. Maybe there's a 2-week inspection. So here's Franklin's got the 2-week happy walk. You might even have another box up here that you create for go backs. This is visual, it's manual, it's portable. So if it's on a shared drive, you can pull it up anywhere. The nice thing about doing it in Excel, you never have to erase anything. You can simply hide rows, copy this down and make, the next 2 weeks worth of boxes. Copy and paste the rows and then hide the rows, and you never have to erase anything. So you can always go back and unhide rows and see what the history is. If you want everybody in the office to see it, you can buy a big monitor for as cheap as one of those big whiteboards and put it up in the office and screencast it up there so that it makes it very, very visible. Now, the downside to this is if your office manager or production coordinator is not very comfortable in Excel, you might have to teach them a little bit about Excel before they get comfortable using this. So there is a little bit of technology that might have to be trained, but this isn't, you're not doing pivot tables and macros and all sorts of crazy stuff. This is pretty basic Excel. So it shouldn't take that much to train somebody on how to use this. So whether you use a manual whiteboard or whether you use some sort of electronic Excel version, it does not make any difference which one of these two you decide to use, but you need to pick one and use it. The worst thing that you can do is not have a scheduling board. If you decide, well, I'm just going to keep it in my head, it's going to fail. If you decide I'm just going to keep it in my little notebook, well, then somebody has to have access to your little notebook. There needs to be a scheduling board, whether it's on a whiteboard or whether it's an Excel on a shared drive. However you decide to manage it is fine, but there needs to be a scheduling board. So how are you going to manage one job through production? Well, again, if you've been to the office, you've seen this set of folders. If you haven't been to the office yet, you will see this. So you're going to simply, as a job gets created, the design associate is going to create the folder, sit down with the production coordinator, have their handoff, and then they're simply going to drop that folder into the created box. So the created means that the folder has passed from the DA to the PC. Move it from created down to ordered when the materials are ordered. So then when the office manager or the project coordinator actually schedules it, the materials are received and it's been scheduled, they're going to simply move it from ordered down to scheduled. On the day of the job, we're going to move it from scheduled to active. Now, it might be that this is a 2 or 3 day job, so the folder sits inactive for 2 or 3 days. As it moves from there to completed, done. From completed to be paid, normally you don't end up with a bunch of folders in to be paid because you should get paid the same day that the job is finished. But it may be that the customer gave you the keys to the house because they were going on vacation and you're waiting for them to get back from vacation to go back and get paid. Okay, that's fine. So it might sit here for a day or two before the customer gets back from vacation. And then to file, what does to file mean? Well, to file means that it's completely finished, and maybe you went out to Craigslist and bought a $25 metal cabinet that's sitting out in the warehouse, and you're going to physically take the folder and put it in the metal cabinet. What I would strongly suggest is that you take every piece of paper that's in this folder, that you scan it and you upload it into Salesforce under the project number. So if you go into Salesforce and you look in the project number, or you look on the project page, look on related, there is a place where you can upload files. And this, if you scan everything in or have your office manager scan everything in and then upload it to the project file, then you don't have to worry about all the manual paperwork and keeping a metal cabinet somewhere. You can just open up the project file in Salesforce and upload and look at the documents from there. You might also have, it's not shown here, you might also have a box that says paid and you're waiting for your 10-day happy walk. So that might be another one that you add to this list. So let me bounce out of this for just a moment. All right, so I just wanted to show you where you can do this. If you go to your project in Salesforce, if I click over to the related tab, you'll see you've got options, appointment number, then you'll see the third box down is files. And if you click on upload files, this is where you can take, if you've got scanned documents, if you've got videos, if you've got anything that you need, you can simply upload it here or drop the files into here, and it's going to save it with the project in Salesforce. So this is a great place to be able to store all the documents after the job is finished, right? So when I say to file, that might mean that you're putting it in a metal box somewhere, or it might mean that you are scanning it into Salesforce, or maybe both. The other file that I wanted to show you while I've bounced out of this momentarily is I just want to show you the production schedule. So just like we saw in the PowerPoint, you can see you've got your dates across the top, and it's very simple. Let's say that Gilmore needs to be scheduled, and I know that Samuel's going to do that, and it's going to be Gilmore and Gilmore, right? And so now that one is already scheduled. Simple. Maybe Turner is now finished, and I can come up here and put Turner, or maybe I just go ahead and move over here because Turner already paid, so I can take and put Turner up here. I mean, you can see how easy that is. Now that one's done, right? And when I get to the end of this 2 weeks, I don't have to delete anything. I can simply come down here and hide these rows, and then it's done. And when I need more rows, I can simply copy these rows down. So having it in Excel is really, really easy. Again, you can screencast this to a monitor somewhere. I would highly encourage you to put this on some sort of shared drive so that the whole office has the opportunity to see it. And has the opportunity to get to it. If you only want yourself and maybe your office manager or production coordinator to be able to edit it, I know on most of these shared functions, whether it's a OneDrive or SharePoint or Google Drive, there's ways of distinguishing between whether somebody has view access only or they can modify. So, do what makes sense for your business. All right. Good. So we've gone through the folder management. There is, and I'm not going to go through this in detail today, there is a production dashboard in Salesforce. Now, we're going to look at this later. We're going to look at this in field training after you've actually got some data out there. Right now, to look at it is a little premature, but if you wanted to, there are production dashboard tutorials that are out there on fciit.com. You can just simply search for production dashboard, and there's tutorials that are out there if you wanted to look at this. This is a neat way of being able to move stuff through production. So this is my to-do list. These are things that need to be ordered. This is stuff that's waiting for product. So it's almost like you're moving the folder down through the boxes. This doesn't replace those boxes, though. This is just a way of being able to record it electronically. When this first came out, there were a ton of franchisees that says, yes, 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 I want to be able to use this. But then they very quickly realized that this doesn't actually take the place of moving the folders from one box to the next. And so I don't know a lot of people that actually still use this production dashboard. It's useful, but it is redundant for sure. And it doesn't really, the redundancy never really changes. So anyway, I leave that to you. Like I said, we're not going to go into those in detail today. Just know that that is out there in Salesforce. And if you want to get ahead of the curve, you can absolutely go to fciit.com and search for the production dashboard tutorials, or when you download these slides, click on this link and it'll take you right to them. All right, what about receiving materials? So we've had the opportunity to order everything, and now what does my warehouse look like when it comes in? Well, do you want your warehouse to look like this, or do you want it to look like this? Do you want to have everything where it makes sense and you can identify stuff, or do you want your warehouse to look like a disaster area? I will tell you that unless it's managed, it will end up looking like this. It's very easy to let a warehouse get out of control. So from day one, I would encourage you to keep your warehouse organized. Another thing that I would tell you is if you're not very familiar with receiving trucks, like that wasn't in your background, one of the things to note about receiving trucks, it is going to happen one day that you're going to get a shipment that looks like this. That's going to happen. Now, here's something that you may or may not know about third-party shippers. If you sign the document that you've received the material, unless you mark that you're receiving it as damaged, like you physically write on the bill of lading that I am receiving this material, but it is damaged, if you just sign it, the carrier is going to absolutely decline any damage claim whatsoever. So if you get a shipment that looks like this, you have two choices. One is you could refuse the shipment and say, nope, I'm not taking it. Too big of a risk. I'm sending it back. But you might look at this and say, you know what, this is going to be a pain because I'm going to have to pull these boxes off one by one, but I'm going to go ahead and take it because I need this material. But when I sign for it, I'm going to sign for it and I'm going to mark damaged. So I'm going to write on the paperwork, received as damaged. Then when you can make a claim with a third-party carrier, or you can make a claim with the vendor that sent it to you, you actually have a leg to stand on. Take pictures, do whatever you can to prove that this material showed up at your site like this. Otherwise, the carrier is simply going to say, well, it was fine when we unloaded it. Something must have happened afterwards. And I know that's horrible, but that's the way that the logistics world works. If you came from a background where you had to receive trucks, you know that I'm right. If you've never had to do this before, maybe you came from a background where you never actually looked inside the back of a big truck, that's okay. There's no harm in that. Just know that that's the way this industry works. So when that truck backs up, if you've got a shipment that looks like this one, you need to mark it as damaged. Take pictures, whatever you need to do, make sure that the quantities are right, that everything's right, but make sure that you note it on the paperwork. You write it on it with a pen on the paperwork that the material was damaged upon receipt. That way you have a fighting chance of being able to file a claim. I would highly encourage you to have specific areas for bays, right? So as much as possible, have like, this is the Teresa job. This is another job. This is another job. Maybe because carpet is long, I'm not going to be able to fit it in these. Maybe I put carpet on one side, maybe there's some shelving on the other side, but I really want to make sure that I've got material identified by job name so that, look, it's going to happen. You're going to have to show up at the warehouse at 6:30 in the morning to help your installers find everything. You're going to be half asleep, pull the paperwork out, go through the bill of material and make sure that you've got everything listed. And if you've got stuff in a warehouse that looks like this, it's going to be it's almost guaranteed that you're going to miss something. If you've got a warehouse that's laid out nice and neat, that actually you can figure out where stuff is, you've got a fighting chance of everything showing up on the job site. What are you going to need to be able to move stuff around with? You don't need a ton of stuff. Now, some people opt to get a forklift, some people don't. You don't have to necessarily have a forklift, but know that you're going to get carpet trucks that look like this, and you're going to have to be able to get carpet off of the truck. So if you don't have a forklift, you need to think through how you're going to do this. Maybe you're mounting a winch somewhere and you're pulling the carpet off with a winch. I don't know. There's a ton of different ways that you can do it, but you need to think through how you're going to get carpet off the back of the truck and move it around. And that roll of carpet might be an 800 or 900 pound roll. You will probably want a pallet jack. In fact, 100% you're going to want a pallet jack for being able to move pallets around in your warehouse. I personally found that these little moving dollies from Harbor Freight, they have two sizes. They've got a big size and a small size. The small size actually carries more weight. So I would encourage you to get a half a dozen of these small size ones. When you get a roll of carpet, you can use one of these metal hand trucks, lift up one end of the carpet and slide one of these dollies under it on one side, go around to the other side, lift it up on the other side and get wheels under the other side. And then you can roll the carpet around your warehouse on wheels. These straps are really handy as well. You can take that strap and wrap it around the carpet and pull it, right? So for me, bare minimum, I would have a hand truck. I'd have a couple of these straps. I'd have a half a dozen or so of these things and a pallet jack. And then if you can figure out how to get carpet off of the truck, maybe you don't need a forklift. If your warehouse is on ground level and the parking lot is gravel, you probably don't have a choice, but you're probably going to have to get a forklift, right? So just think through. The hardest thing to deal with is carpet, because pallets, you can always ask the carrier to bring a lift gate. It's got a little elevator on the back of it. The driver can push the pallet out to the elevator and drop it down, and you can pick it up with your pallet jack and move it off. So pallets you can deal with. Carpet is a different story. Whether you have a forklift with a carpet pole or not is up to you. Just know that you got to figure out how you're going to deal with carpet on the back of the truck. All right, one final thing when it comes to being organized, and that is roles and responsibilities. So I want to pull this file up specifically. I've got it right here. So this is what I call my order flow with swim lanes. So these are swim lanes. This is what the DA is responsible for. This is what the project coordinator is responsible for. This is what the office manager is responsible for. You might not have all three of these in your business yet. You might only have two. You're the DA and you've got somebody else that's doing the office manager, production coordinator stuff. That's fine. But this has every little detail that would go into the project. And by the way, when you download this, it's in Excel so that you can change it. This is not what you should do. This is what my business did. So you may decide that, you know what, it's not the office manager that's going to do that. It's going to be a different person that does it. That's fine. Move the X. You have to make this work for your business. But I've tried to help you, getting you 98% of the way there. This is what it looks like in home during the appointment and all the things that the DA needs to do in the house. What does it mean in the office within 24 hours of the appointment? Well, these are the things within 24 hours. Now, I personally, if we didn't do it in the house, I personally wanted the office manager to run credit approval, but maybe that's your DA and maybe that's in the home. So maybe you move that up into the home. That's okay too. Within 48 hours, what's going to happen? The design associate is going to meet. They're going to review all this stuff. We're going to write a handwritten note. We're going to call the customer. And all of a sudden, the project coordinator and the office manager are going to do their things. Well, maybe you don't have both of those roles. So maybe the office manager is doing all this. Okay, move the X's around. But I'll let you go through this in your own time. This is not to give you a rule about who's supposed to do what. This is supposed to help you understand what's involved in production, step by step, in home, within 24 hours, within 48 hours, getting ready for the project, the startup, during, when the project's finished, the final walkthrough, 7 to 10 days later, and then give you a template that you can simply move the X's back and forth, who's supposed to do what. As your business grows, maybe you have more slots and you open this up to have, different swim lanes. This grew out of necessity. And I'll just be frank with you. This grew out of necessity from my business because I found myself stepping on my project coordinator's toes. I was in the DA role, but I kept doing stuff that the PC was supposed to do. And yet I have 100% confidence in my PC. It was my wife, and I knew she could do the job. I thought I was being helpful, but it turns out that I was just stepping on her toes. So we put this together as a way of making sure that I stayed in my lane. And now that doesn't mean, by the way, so let's say ordering materials. The project coordinator has to order the materials, but let's say that they're really, really busy today. That doesn't mean that the PC can't turn to the office manager, turn to the DA and say, hey, can you help me today? Sure, absolutely. But it's up to the PC to make sure that it gets done. So this is a list of responsibilities. Whose role, whose responsibility, who is it that's supposed to get things done, or who is it that's supposed to make sure? Who is the who to get this done, or who is the who to make sure that it's actually done? Again, this is not intended to be 100% do it this way. Not at all. This is supposed to give you 98% of the way there to say, hey, I didn't think about taking pictures of taking progress pictures. I didn't think about taking after pictures. I didn't think about doing this or that or the other. Perfect. You know what? This gives you the sort of the cue card to say, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And give you the questions to ask. Who do I want to do what in my business? I would strongly suggest that you sit down with your office manager or project coordinator and have this discussion about who's going to do what. And then as you add a design associate, move the boxes around again. Who's supposed to do what? All right, back to our presentation here. So just like before, all of the files that we looked at two today. We looked at the order flow, and we looked at what did we look at? We looked at our order flow, and we looked at this scheduling board. Okay, so we looked at two files: the order flow with swim lanes, and we looked at the scheduling board. Both of those are in the resources folder. And just for fun, I'm going to bounce over there and show these to you. So you'll notice I'm in the production management systems and tools, and there is my order flow with swim lanes. And then right here is my sample production board. Both of these files can be downloaded. They're both in Excel so that you can change them, modify them, customize them, make them yours, make them part of your business. And I thank you once again for your attention. As I said at the beginning of this, if you get the point of sale right, if you get the preparation right, and if you get the organization right, production is going to be sweet. It doesn't mean it's going to be 100% perfect, but it's going to go a whole lot better. Those three things at the beginning will set you up for success. So I would encourage you to go back and rewatch if you need to, really study the order flow with swim lanes, really study these and make sure that you get these right, ask questions, seek help, whatever you need to do. If you get the point of sale right, if you get the preparation right, if you get the organization right, production is going to be sweet. And now, in our next module, I look forward to moving through some of the rest of the things on the assumption that we got the first three boxes, that we got those straight from the beginning. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to working with you in the next one.